The Battle of Stäket was a minor battle during the Great Northern War. A probing Russian force, circumventing Vaxholm Castle, attempted to pass through Stäket, a very narrow passage in the Stockholm archipelago. After a desperate counterattack by Södermanland's regiment, the Russian force departed. Prelude. After the death of Charles XII of Sweden at Fredriksson in 1718, the Swedish armies had pulled back from all fronts. Surrounded by hostiles, it was clear that a peace treaty would not be forthcoming without large territorial losses. An attempt was made to play the adversaries against each other, but Russia forced the issue by building and equipping a large Baltic fleet with orders to pillage and harass the eastern Swedish seaboard. On the 11th of July 1719, the fleet was spotted off the Swedish coast. The Swedish navy was shattered after the long war, but still offered some resistance. The Russian fleet on its side did not commit to a battle, but proceeded burning cities and farmsteads. Admiral Fyodor Matveyevich Apraksin had already investigated Stäket, the back door to Stockholm, as a way to reach the capital city without passing the fortress at Vaxholm. The Russians' interest was noticed. Under the supervision of the colonel of fortifications Baltzar von Dahlheim, boulder-filled boats were towed into the very narrow strait, where they were sunk in the shallowest and narrowest parts to render it impassable. A small redoubt with 3 cannon and 400 men guarded the channel, while 4 galleys were anchored in the Lannistar Sound beyond, probably in order to apply more pressure on Sweden in the peace negotiations. Apraksin decided to attempt an attack on Stockholm. On the 10th of August, Russian units were spotted around Galo, Musko, and Orno, about 20 kilometers from Stäket. If they could pass through Stäket, it would be possible to reach the capital while completely out of reach of the cannon of Vaxholm. The battle. On the morning of the 13th of August, General Adjutant Philip von Tessin returned from a scouting mission to Stäket to report that Russian galleys had been spotted at the entrance to the passage. The closest large Swedish army unit, the 800-man Södermanlands Regementer, was alerted, and under its commander Rutger Fuchs' force marched 19 kilometers to meet the enemy. Lieutenant Colonel Johan von Essen was sent ahead with a force to protect the arrival of the rest of the regiment. After a rapid march through rocky and densely forested terrain under a hot summer sun, von Essen reached Stäket before 7 p.m. without encountering any fire. However, the Russians by then had disembarked their forces on both sides of the channel's eastern entrance. Continuing their rapid march, von Essen's unit suddenly came under fire from the fields around Skogsegard. Its position was very exposed and the unit took losses. Von Essen himself was wounded. At 8 p.m., Fuchs battalion arrived and received news of von Essen's situation. To his right, von Essen had a marsh which forced Fuchs to pass von Essen on his left. A difficult move through snarled and hilly terrain as darkness was falling. The Russians heard Fuchs approach and opened fire. Fuchs' battalion responded and caused losses to the tightly grouped Russians, but was soon also in danger of being outflanked. On its left, Fuchs started to withdraw into the woods and the Russians did not pursue. After 2 hours of confused fighting, the battle was over, and the Russian soldiers retreated into their landing craft. Aftermath. Apraksin's probe had been repulsed and the immediate threat to Stockholm had been averted. Due to unfavorable winds, Apraksin's fleet was forced to remain in Bagensfjorden the next day, but eventually left before the arrival of an English fleet commanded by Admiral John Norris and the Karlskrona squadron. Rutger Fuchs was acclaimed as a hero and savior of Stockholm after the action and was promoted to Major General and made fritheur air. However, the Russian fleet was untouched and would continue to harass the eastern coast of Sweden the next year until it suffered heavy losses in the Battle of Ledsund.